Hello, my name is Jim McGillivray and this is the Pipe Box, your source for all things piping. If you find this video useful, please give it a like and please subscribe to this YouTube channel to see more videos like this. We're going to go over some music today, and you can print out this music by going back to the description of this video on my YouTube channel. You'll see a link to a PDF there. Today I would like to go over with you a very specific grace note pattern. The GDE grace note pattern played in reels. That pattern. GDEs are ubiquitous in almost all pipe music. We see them in reels, we see them in jigs, strathspeys, marches. In jigs we would hear them played like this. In many reels, we would play them evenly as well, just like that. But in more pointed reels, and this includes almost all competition reels, we play these GDEs in a pointed fashion. And I want to describe to you exactly in this video how this pointed GDE works. It's not as pointed as one might think. It's actually fairly simple to describe. You're going to hold the first note in the group of three, the G grace note, as usual. But when you get to the D and the E grace note, you're going to make sure there's a nice space in between those two grace notes. You're not going to put those two grace notes one on top of the other. So it's going to be about like this. Not like this. Like this. This is called an open style, and it differs from the kind of pointing style we've seen in the past in competition reels. I have 6 exercises for you today that are going to focus on the GDE. The first is a GDE straight on the bottom hand. Let's listen to it and listen very carefully to the spacing between the grace notes. As I hope you can hear, it's not a really pointed GDE, but it's not a round jig GDE either. It's somewhere in the middle. There's a rhythmic basis for the way we play this as well. If we look at a bar of real time, it has 2 strong beats in it. GDE and GDE. However, it also has off beats. So there are 2 beats and 2 off beats in a bar, like this. Do-da-dumpy, do-da-dump. GDE and GDE. So you'll notice that the E falls on the off beat. So you can tap your foot twice in the bar, or you can tap it 4 times to denote the off beat in these exercises. When you're finally playing reels up to tempo, you wouldn't beat your feet 4 times in a bar, you would beat your foot twice. But for the purposes of these exercises, it doesn't hurt sometimes to tap out the double time in the exercise so you know exactly where you're putting the grace note. The E grace note comes on the off beat. Okay, let's try exercise 2, which will be a lot more like a reel. One thing I've deliberately left out in this exercise is the D grace note that would go on the 4th note in each group of 4. So there would be a D grace note on the short C and the short B. We will put that in the next exercise, but I want you to be able to focus on the GDEs in this exercise and not on the more difficult D grace note. Remember, again, hold the very first note in each group of 4 and separate the D and the E grace note. Now we're going to do the same exercise again, except we're going to put that D grace note back in. Here it is. So that is a very reel-like exercise, much like, say, the reel Kate Dalrymple. Play this exercise at whatever tempo you want. Eventually you're going to want to play it up close to real time, but start slowly. Play at a tempo at which you can play this pattern exactly the same every time, the way you want, and work up from there. Now, we added that little D grace note on the short C's and B's in this exercise, and that can be a very tricky movement. Going from low A to C with a D grace note is often prone to crossing noises. I have a video out on playing rising D grace notes, and if you have any trouble at all with this movement, I suggest you have a look at it. Okay, so those are GDEs, real GDEs in a fairly simple context. Now, let's move on to playing GDEs and reels in a taorlum context. You'll find lots of taorlum GDEs in reels and jigs. And you still need to be able to play the GDE with the level of pointing that we've spoken about earlier in this video, as I've described them here. So here is the taorlum reel GDE exercise number 1. Again, don't cut the note in the middle. Leave space between the D and the E grace notes. Da taorlum, G, D, E, G, D, E. If you have any problems playing the taorlum movements from B to low G or C to low A, I have a video on my channel on taorlums alone, D grace notes down. So being able in these exercises to play D grace notes up and down is really important. Okay, let's move on to an exercise that is again a little bit more reel-like. As in the exercise before, I've taken out the rising D grace notes so that you can just focus on the GDEs. Here we go. This reel is very much like the great competition reel Sandy Cameron, which is full of GDEs. In this and so many other reels, GDEs are ubiquitous, and we need to be able to play them consistently exactly the way we want to, and this means practicing it a bit outside of your tunes until they are automatic. Okay, let's finish off our exercises by taking the one we just played and putting the rising D grace notes back in. In terms of your tempos with these exercises, I suggest you start as slowly as you need to play the pattern cleanly until you get familiar with it and it's automatic on your fingers. After that, increase it to more challenging tempos, and so it sounds a little bit more real-like, like a tune simulation. Upper tempo for competition reels is usually about 84 beats per minute. If you're confident of your GDEs being clean and accurate, you can play these exercises to a metronome. I suggest you put the metronome on double time. So, if you're playing a reel at 80 beats per minute, double time is 160 beats per minute. As you can hear, the metronome tells us almost exactly where the grace notes go. So, there's no hurry to get up to maximum tempo. Push yourself a little bit, but the most important thing is to play the GDEs musically with control and technical accuracy. That's it for real GDEs for today. You've got 6 great exercises to work on. From me, Jim McGillivray at the Pipe Box. Good piping.